Welcome to episode 97 of Wool and Spinning. My name is Rachel, and I can be found pretty much everywhere as well for pearls. I hope that you're having a wonderful week, and I hope that things are going really well in your corner of the world. It's been crazy over here. So last time we live streamed was on May. What was the date? It was like May 22nd, I think. Yeah, May 22nd, and got the show out that week on the Thursday, released a show to patrons that night on the Tuesday, and then did the show for the Thursday. And then Friday of that week, I started not feeling awesome, and I went to the gym in the morning with my friend Amber because we have a Friday morning date. And we boxed together and we did our thing. And then, hi Jill, hi Tessa. And then I had another workout that I was doing at 10. So I dropped the kids off at school. Nora was with me. She came with me. And at the end of the workout, I was like, I don't feel great, but I feel fine, but I don't feel great. And it was kind of weird. Like it was one of those, I don't know if I just don't feel great. And I got really nauseated towards the end of the workout, which never happens to me. And I was like, maybe I just worked a bit too hard. Maybe it was just too much in one day, blah, blah, blah. And then at 4 p.m. that afternoon, we had tea with my parents because they were heading out on the road for a couple weeks going camping. And at like 4 p.m., it just hit me like a Mack truck. Sore throat, headache, congestion, like I just felt terrible. And it came on like from 4 p.m. till 4:30 p.m. So by the time I got the kids home and got dinner and everything on the table for 5 p.m., I was just done. Felt horrible. Saturday kind of rallied. I'm doing a running clinic right now, and so went for my run with everybody. Felt okay, and then by Saturday night I was like down for the count for 3 days. So I'm still on the upswing of getting well. You guys will remember how many colds I had throughout the fall. I have been doing a lot of reading about like immunity and immune systems and stuff. Nurses tend to get a lot more colds than the average person because we work night shift and we're around sick people, and the environment that I work in is like extra sterile. Anybody who works in like critical care will understand. Everything is wiped down. Everything is alcoholed and bleached, and your hands, you're constantly putting that alcohol stuff on your hands. You're constantly washing your hands, and you have to change when you go to work, and then you change before you leave. And sometimes, depending on the cases, we have to shower before we leave. So it's like extra sterile. So I'm kind of wondering if I'm like, when I worked in Emerge, I never got sick. And now that I'm in a different, I'm in a very high level intensive care, I'm wondering if it's because I'm not getting exposed to anything. And then James is bringing stuff home from school. Nora's bringing stuff home from preschool. And I think I'm just extra susceptible now. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I've increased my veggie intake by about double, which sounds like a lot, but it's actually really not that much. It's just one of the things that they recommend is that if you are finding that you're getting these viruses really easily, they say to double your veggie intake and to actually start weighing your vegetables to make sure you're getting enough. So I've been weighing them. So I've been trying to get between 1 and 2 pounds of non-starchy vegetables a day, which sounds like a lot, but if you actually like measure them out and actually like put them on a kitchen scale, it's actually not that much. Like I'm amazed. I would actually, I think I was eating close to 1 pound a day before, and so then adding an extra half to full pound is actually not that much. But I have noticed that I have felt a lot better in terms of my energy levels. So I think that maybe there is something to that, because I've been doing that now for about a month. No, about 2 weeks, about 3 weeks, almost 4 weeks. And I think I'm starting to enjoy the extra stuff around, like just the added minerals and vitamins and stuff, because we eat a lot of potatoes and sweet potatoes and yams and stuff anyways, but I haven't been measuring those and weighing those. I just add them in. So anyways, it's just kind of interesting. I kind of went down a rabbit hole there, but I am on the upswing. I'm feeling a lot better. I had a training session this morning. I felt really good. I had a training session last night. Felt really good. Had a really good pace because that's for the running. And just kind of, I'm just sick of getting these viruses and being sick. And you guys can totally understand. Those of you with young children, I know you guys really get it. It's just, you know, you're exposed to a lot in today's world, and these viruses are really virulent, which means that they really have a high infection rate, and it's hard to fight them off all the time. And I'm a healthy, happy person, and I still succumb to them all the time. So for those of you who have like, you know, sicknesses and chronic illnesses and stuff, I'm really, really sympathetic because I know it's so, so hard with these illnesses. We have a stacked show. I have quite a few things to give away today, and I did not have a chance to do the random number generator and get everybody's stuff organized and who's getting what and where things are going, and the Patreon calendar for the month, which is this. This is June. I just haven't had a chance to do all of that, so we'll do it next show. I didn't want to do it too soon for the giveaway in the Ravelry group because I wanted to make sure that people had right up until today to enter, and there's a lot of entries in there. So I will get that ready for tomorrow. I will lock, or sorry, for next show, I will lock the thread so that you can't continue to add responses. That's done. We have a new giveaway for June with... You guys will remember this. So for June, Wilma had actually won this. And she asked me very kindly, she was just so sweet about it. She asked me if she could maybe have something else because of the climate that she lives in, wool just does not work for her. So we worked out something else. So this will be the giveaway for June. This is 4 ounces of pencil roving. It's from Smith & New in Kamloops, British Columbia. And it is Superwash BFL. And this will go out to somebody in the first show in July. So if you'd like to go into the July episode thread on the Ravelry group, so Woolen Spinning is the Ravelry group, it's linked in the show notes below. Most of the patrons of the show know where to find that, but for those who are new to the show, welcome. If you are a returning viewer, thank you and welcome. You can find the link for the Ravelry group in the show notes, which are available at patreon.com/wellforpearls or at wellforpearls.com. For June, I don't know. Do you guys have any ideas? What do you want to do for the prompt? Something interesting. Those of you who are in the chat channel, maybe you guys could come up with something and we could figure out what we want to do for this one. I actually have 2 bumps of this, and I'm going to start spinning my bump very quickly, actually in the next day or so. So, yeah, if you have any ideas, I would love to hear what you guys think. Oh, you guys are asking in the chat channel, so we're going back to the food conversation really quickly. So Eve says, I know white potatoes are, but what other vegetables are starchy? And then Rebecca says, I know peas and corn have quite a bit of starch. Yeah, so sweet potatoes, yams, white potatoes, all potatoes have a lot of starch in them. So when you're trying to increase your veggie intake and you want to increase your intake, if that's something you want to do, and you want to increase your vegetable intake, and you want to go to non-starchy vegetables, so that would be like anything from the green leafies, so kale, spinach, romaine lettuce, chard, all those different vegetables that are all kind of usually in one section of the grocery store. All the green leafies are non-starchy, and then you've got your carrots, cucumbers, bell peppers, and all of those vegetables that are all non-starchy. Basically, you're looking at like the squashes and the potatoes. Corn has some starch. Peas are actually a legume, so they are sort of in a whole other class. Yes, they're starchy, but they're not really actually a vegetable. Green beans are non-starchy, just to complicate things. Think about mushrooms, onions, garlic, green onion, leek, artichoke hearts. I could just keep going. Basically, in the veggie section, you're looking at anything that's not, you know, potatoes and squash. That's a great question, Eve. So for the prompt for June, for the June giveaway, what drew you to spinning? So what brought you into the world of hand spinning, and what is like, why'd you start spinning? That's a great one, Eve. Thank you. All right, so, and I will give away the other stuff next show. I just, like I said, I didn't get a chance. So in today's show, we've got an Ask Anything that we're going to answer. It was a great question that popped up in the Ravelry group, and so I thought we would do that one today. And then I have 2 projects that I've been working on that I thought that I would talk about. So without further ado, let's get into the show. In the Ravelry group, in the Wool and Spinning group, there is a thread in there that's called Ask Anything, and you can literally go in there and ask anything. I may or may not be able to answer it, but for the most part, we've been able to address most people's questions and talk about what most people, and answer most people's questions. A lot of them don't end up on the show because they either get answered really quickly, there's stuff we've talked about in the past, or it's stuff that can be addressed in that thread but isn't great for talking about on the show. And once in a while we get these really great questions that do lend themselves to talking about on the show, and this is one of them. So the question was, it was in post number 977, which is just crazy because there's over 1,000 posts in that thread. So I'm actually wondering if I should archive that thread and start a new one. But there's so much great information in there, but it's overwhelming because there's so much information, so I don't know what to do. Anyways, okay, so post number 977 from Sandy83 says, "Hi Rachel, I have a question about spinning Angelina fibers. I hope it wasn't already asked. I tried using the search engine but couldn't find an answer, and actually it hadn't been asked already, which is good. When I spin a bat or a row leg with it, most of it falls out, and the stuff that does end up in my yarn sticks out a lot. Do you have any suggestions on spinning it better?" Great question. Okay, Angelina is a very interesting fiber. I'm just going to switch my cameras around here, just 1 second. And there's sort of two fibers, and correct me if I'm wrong, those of you who are in the chat channel, because you might think of something that I haven't thought of. There's two sparkle fibers that are on the market, at least in Canada, that are available. One is called Firestar and one is called Angelina. It's just a branding thing. They are slightly different. Angelina and Firestar, to my knowledge, are sort of these plastic nylon, not really nylon, they're plastic fibers that you can add into your like bats, roll eggs. You can hackle it in, you can blend it in, like any way of blending your fibers, you can put Angelina and Firestar and stuff in there. And they're, it's sparkly. So it adds sort of this sparkle to your spinning. And you can look it up on Google, like just type in Firestar spinning fiber and like tons of colors will come up. Firestar has fewer colors available than Angelina, and the preps are a little bit different. So for the Firestar, it tends to come, it almost kind of looks like combed top. It comes in sort of a length and it looks like combed top, and it's, I could have grabbed some from the garage and shown you, but it's easy enough to look it up. And there's like a green blend that's sort of got greens and blues and yellows in it. There's one that's purples and oranges and blacks, and there's one that's no color at all, which is my personal favorite. It sort of gives like a clear sheen. And then Angelina is a little bit different. It comes in, you can buy it in bulk, or you can buy it in sort of little packages, and they're all different colors. So you can get one that's like only neon pink, or only navy blue, or only bronze, or only gold. And they're slightly shorter. So the Angelina fibers tend to be a little bit shorter, whereas the Firestar tends to be, like when you pull it apart, it tends to be a slightly longer, I don't want to call it fiber. It's not fiber. It's a plastic product. Anyways, it's a longer stapled. It doesn't have a staple, but you know what I mean. It's a longer substance. When you put them when you're blending it on a blending board, or on a drum carder, or on hand cards, the trick with adding these sparkle fibers into your wool, or whatever it is that you're blending it with, is to layer it. So you don't want to lay it on your, let's say this is the drum carder, the tray where stuff feeds into your drum carder. You're not just going to put the Angelina or the Firestar on the drum and it's just not going to get uptake. It's not going to go up onto the drum. It'll either end up on the liquor in brush, or it'll just kind of float away. The more that you put on there, especially if it's by itself, the less is going to be picked up. So what you want to do is layer it. So you put a very thin layer of some sort of a wool. It can be superwash wool. It doesn't matter. A thin layer of the wool a thin layer, you know, whatever the sparkle is that you want to put on, and then another thin layer of the fiber on top, and you make like a sparkle sandwich basically, and that will get taken up onto your drum carder or onto the drum. And then the same thing on a blending board. So when you lay it on, you basically take the fiber, the Firestar or the Angelina, and you sort of very gently paint it on, and then you sort of have to take your hand and you have to kind of push it onto the blending board to get it to stick, because it's just it doesn't have any grip. Like it doesn't have scales. It doesn't have anything that's going to hold it onto the blending board. And then you need to layer it with other fiber over top to get it to stick. And like putting like sari silk or threads or something over top, that's not going to hold it. So you can put all that stuff in there, but you need to layer all of that stuff, all of that texture, you need to layer it in with other fiber. Most people are using wool. So that's sort of and it's the same with hand cards. You're gonna create like a sandwich, and you're gonna layer it on, and then you're gonna work with it and try to blend it in and work it in with the fiber as much as you possibly can. So this bat, it's actually next up on my spinning list, if you will. This is from my friend Sarah Elizabeth, and it's an art bat of hers, and she's located just outside of Nelson, British Columbia, up in the Kootenays. Now, let me just get this camera. I'm going to unroll this. So she's rolled it beautifully, and I'm just going to unroll it, and then I'll focus the camera, and you can see how the Angelina is layered in here. So you can see the Angelina in here, and it's all spread throughout, and it's not very much. So if you're finding that as you spin, the fibers are all falling out, and they're all coming, and there's nothing for them to cling to, there's probably too much sparkle. Now, I know a lot of spinners have a love-hate relationship with sparkle. Like some people love it, some people hate it. Some people like a ton, some people like none. It really just depends on your preference and what you like. This is a huge textured bat. I'll hold it up so you can see, and then I'll put it back under the camera. It's huge. But there's not a ton of sparkle in it. There is sparkle in it, but there isn't tons and tons and tons. Sarah didn't put so much in here that it would be, you know, overtly obvious that there was tons of sparkle. And I'm trying to move it in the light to get it to, because you can see it when it sparkles, right? But it's that's not a ton in a big bat like this, and it'll have a really lovely effect. But it's not so much that when I'm spinning, it's going to start just falling out, and there aren't these big, massive strips of it. The thing with Angelina, and I find this even more so with Firestar, as soon as if it's not drafted and pulled apart and really aired out and really separated so that it goes into the bat or the nest or whatever it is that you're making, so that it's all broken apart, if it goes through as one piece and stays as like a separate strip through your bat, it's going to be really difficult to spin. It's going to fall apart and it's going to stick out. So I brought some examples. So this is a core spun yarn, and there's some parts in this yarn that actually were the Firestar was not blended very well. And it almost core spun on to the yarn like directly. So it just like went straight on. There was nothing else. There was no other wool fibers to core spin onto it directly. And it created like these sections of yarn that are just straight Firestar. It works because it's core spun, but you can see that when the yarn is laid out, it still pokes out a little bit, even though this is smooth core spun. This wasn't a really jagged, you know, get the fiber on kind of core spun, because there's a few different ways to do core spun. You can do smooth core spun, or you can do sort of jagged and textured and kind of crazy, and it's really neat. But this I tried to do as smooth as possible, and the Firestar still sticks out. I hope you guys can see that there. It's just not gonna lock in. There's nothing to lock it in. So over time, it will fall out. Some of it, not all of it, but some of it. The ends, the bits and pieces that are sticking out are going to fall out. It's just like Kemp. So the Kemp in fiber. So like Jacob is a breed of sheep that tend to have Kemp. You can sometimes get, like Jacob, for example, you can get it really, really cheaply, and it'll be listed on Ravelry, or sorry, on Etsy, really, really at like a very discounted price. And you're like, how is it that like a pound of it is like $7 or something, or $12 or something? It's like really, really, really affordable. When you get it, it probably will have quite a bit of Kemp in it, and that's why they don't charge very much for it, because it's not. A lot of people would say, well, that's not a very good prep. It wasn't prepped very nicely. There's Kemp in it, blah, blah, blah. But what a lot of people don't understand, and this is something that I've chatted with my friend Diana Twist about a lot, the beauty of that is it'll fall out. Over time, as you wear the wool, as you work with the wool, as you spin it, knit it, and then wear it, if it's a garment, that all those Kempy fibers are going to fall out. Yes, they're annoying. Yes, they create this texture that you don't want, and you sort of, as much as possible, try to pull that Kemp out whenever you can. You can get Kemp like with alpaca blends sometimes. Jacob is one that comes to the top of my head like that, but there's other sheep breeds that have a lot of Kemp in them, and people will criticize it, but the thing is you can get spinning fiber really affordably, and then that Kemp will just fall out over time. It's kind of the same with some of this textured stuff. So these yarns, you have to kind of figure out what the purpose is of the yarn. Like, is the yarn to be an art yarn, which is like this one? So there's all that Angelina fiber in there, all that silver. There's tons of it, right? And this is a core spun. This is a sample that I use when I teach. And it's just a really, really fun yarn. It took a ton of fiber to spin. And all of these coils, it's all core spun. So I core spun the yarn, and then I coiled it. So you can imagine the yardage and how heavy this yarn is. Like, it's a heavy, heavy yarn. It's a big yarn too. It doesn't look big under the camera, but then you put it next to my head, it's a big yarn. It's a lot of yarn, a lot of fiber. This is over 4 ounces of fiber. And it made like 10 yards. There's maybe 15 yards here, maybe. But this isn't going to be used for anything that's going to be braided. That Angelina is going to stay locked in there because it's a sample yarn. It's for my pleasure just to look at and to admire, for my students to admire and to look at, to learn from. It's not going to be a problem. Whereas these two yarns were very much made to be used. So there's Angelina and Firestar in both of these yarns. There's clear Firestar in this one, green Firestar in this one, and there's Angelina in both. So because I knew that the Firestar was going to stick out and the Angelina was going to stick out, and there's other texture in both of these yarns as well. I knew that they were gonna sort of create that added texture, and they're both carded on my drum carder, so they're a carded prep anyways. There's a bit more airiness in there anyways. I spun them quite tightly. Lots and lots of twist in my singles, lots and lots of twist in my plying. So that's sort of my answer to, and it's still like, you can't really see it in this one because of the, I'm going to see if I can bring it close. It's just a bit too, I would love to be able to like zoom in on this a little bit more, but I don't think it's going to work. Maybe I can put it into macro. Just bear with me here for a sec, guys. I'm sorry, I can't do anything if it keeps freezing. Unfortunately, that is probably a YouTube issue. But it'll have a chance to catch up anyways because I'm fiddling with my cameras. So this is a close-up of this yarn. And you see the texture down here and all that stuff down there? See how that all in there? That Firestar and that Angelina, it's all gonna fall out over time. It's just kind of the way that it is. There's really nothing you can do about it. And this is very tightly spun. And it's still gonna fall out over time. Like I can pull it out no problem. So you have to decide if you're gonna use it or not. That's really kind of where this conversation is going. If you really, really love your textured yarns, and you really love using sparkle, and you really love using some of this stuff, you sort of have to decide how much of it you're going to use and what you're going to use it for and when you're going to use it. So I know that's not a clear answer, but it's just the nature of the fiber. All right, let's switch gears and talk about, does anybody have any questions? Oh, that smooth coarse spun is beautiful. Is it the same technique, just being more careful whilst doing the coarse spun? Yeah, so the smooth coarse spun, I ran my finger underneath as I was coarse spinning to get it to lay as flat and as cleanly as possible. And I made this quite a long time ago. I don't know the exact date, but I did talk about it quite a bit on the podcast because I was going for a specific look because it was part of the gallery show for our guild last summer. And I was going for a specific clean look. And it worked out really well. Becca says, by smooth fibers, I mean, oh, hang on. I have some bat sleeves that leave clumps of smooth fibers and sparkle in the bat because it looks dramatic and cool, but the actual spinning is a real pain. Totally. So when there's big clumps of these fibers, when they're not well blended, it just makes it such a pain to spin. It makes really textured yarn, but it's a pain to spin. And actually, a lot of bats like this one, like Sarah's, I actually like these best when they're coarse spun. That's my personal favorite because there's so much texture in here and there's so much stuff that I really prefer it when it's coarse spun. That's just me. I think it really highlights the texture and it makes a yarn that I really enjoy. I think I've talked about that on the show before. I'm going to roll this back up before it gets ruined. See how small it is in comparison to how big it is? Like you roll it up and you're like, holy smokes, it's so small. And then you unroll it and it's just a massive thing of fiber. And then Becca says, by smooth fibers, I mean bamboo, tencel, nylon, exactly, etc. I really prefer those very well blended. I do too. And of course it takes away from the like show value of the bat. But to me, a bat that's really well blended is by somebody who's making them, who really is a spinner and really gets what an enjoyable spinning experience is. All right, let's move on. I've got some, where did I put all my stuff? Okay, I have been working on the breeding color studies. I'm not going to talk about this too much because we kind of got off on down a rabbit hole with the Firestar. I've got a couple of bobbins spun, and it's amazing with this study how diverse, like how different all the fiber is. This is ongoing in the Ravelry group right now. Everybody is welcome to join. It's we're looking at Targhee right now, which is very spongy, fine wool. Here are my spinning cards, my control cards. I've got a couple of different projects going here. So these are the 4 nests that I still have left to spin. I think there was 11 nests in my pack, I think. And I've been making a bunch of notes while I've been spinning. Sorry for the crinkling. Anyways, I can't believe, one of the things about this study, so those of you who saw the fiber and the photo of the fibers, and I'll include that in the photos at the beginning of the show so you'll get a really good idea of what this all looks like, what the study looks like. I can't believe how different every single nest is to spin. Like these two are part of a 3-ply that I'm working on, and like the third bobbin, which isn't quite done yet, is even different again. So like this is a 2-ply sample that I did. And I need to put it back through the wheel because it doesn't actually have quite enough twist in it. Targhee can take a lot of twist. And like it's just crazy yarn. Rambo is similar to Targhee, but it's a little bit softer. It's a finer wool than Targhee. But you can see like all that barber pulling in there. It's just crazy, like nothing matched up. There was this one random section where a coral matched up, and I couldn't believe it as it went past me as I was plying. There's a couple of sections where the green matched up, but like just super random Lots and lots of barber pole. I know some people wouldn't like this. It's not my absolute most favorite. However, I'm really excited to see how these colors and how the yarn will play off of each other once they're all done. I have a project in mind, and I'm going to put a little bit more ply twist in this so that it's a little bit more tightly spun. And I'm hoping, see if I can get that better in focus. I'm hoping that my experiment will work. What I really want to do is actually weave with these yarns and actually do it this time, because I always run out of time, because our breed and color studies are, they run over like a 6-month period, and you'd think that would be tons of time. But with everything else, like all the creation of the content and stuff that I do for the show in the background, once it comes to like warping my loom and getting something like woven, it actually isn't that much time. Like there actually isn't that much time left within the breed and color study. And I still don't know what I'm going to do with my fin from last time. It's hanging on my wall and I can't decide. But this just has so much color in it, and these 2 bobbins have so much color that I really want to play with that and see what I can create by weaving with them. So I'm definitely going to do that this time around. I'm definitely going to do a woven project and figure out my yardage for my warp and my weft so I can use all of the yarn and really see what that looks like. I'm going to ask my friend Kelsey to help me so that I can weave something up, even if it's like a table runner or something that's not as big as a scarf, because I probably won't have enough yardage for that out of only 100 grams of fiber. But that's yeah, what I'm hoping to work on. So I'm halfway done. I've got 1 more bobbin of this 3-ply to go, and then I'm going to spin those other 4 nests. So I'll keep you posted. Targhee, I've talked about this before. Targhee's a great fiber to spin. It's great for beginners. I like spinning it in the carded prep. I think it's kind of a neat prep. But I enjoy it. I really like the finished yarn usually. I don't think I've ever spun any Targhee that I didn't like at the end, but it's I find it really spongy and really bouncy, and I really like the long wools. Like I really like how they spin. I like that smooth worsted look. And I always want to like smooth Targhee down even more and not let it get so spongy and bouncy. It's just my personal preference. Some people love spinning merino and like it's their absolute most favorite thing to spin, and like I don't care if I don't ever spin merino in my whole life ever again. So everybody has their own preferences, and that's good. That's how it should be. So the last thing I wanted to talk about was this, and I'm just going to switch my cameras a bit. Has the freezing and skipping, has that gotten any better for you guys? I was just wondering. This is the Sparkle Cardigan by Joji Locatelli. This was a recent pattern release that came out from her using some yarn that's put out by Sweet Georgia. Oh shoot, I'm in the middle of a row. Oh, that's too bad. Oh, I'm almost done the row. Okay, maybe while I talk, I'll finish it. You guys don't mind, do you? It'll take like 2 seconds. Yes, so Tessa said about the Targhee, just going back for a sec. I've been spinning Targhee lately and it puffs up so much after washing. So that is something to take into account. So when I was sampling my yarn, I did take that into account because I tend to spin Targhee. If I'm going for like 12 wraps per inch, I'll spin it to like 14 wraps per inch. So I'll spin it slightly finer, because otherwise with the puffing up with washing, it's so what your finished yarn weight was what you were going for. It ends up being completely off. And not at all what you were going for. So that is something to take into account. So if you're spinning for like a sport weight, you're probably going to want to aim for a heavy fingering. If you're spinning for DK, you probably want to aim for a sport, and so on. Because after washing, it's going to puff up like nobody's business. I think Rambo is actually very similar in that sense, because the few times I've spun Rambo, it's done the same thing. Merino puffs up quite a bit. They just have a lot of crimp. They're highly crimpy fibers, and as soon as you stick that crimp in the wash after it's been in comb top and been relaxed and or not relaxed, but been sort of pulled chemically to lay straight in the factory, once it hits that water, it just goes boing. You know, just like curly hair that's been straightened, as soon as it hits the water, it goes curly again. It's exactly the same thing. Corriedale does it too. Yeah, that's very true, Vicky. Corriedale's one of the ones that comes to mind that does that for sure. This is a slow pattern to knit. I will say that. It's a slow pattern to knit, and it's not finicky per se, but I do find that when I come to a pattern row, it takes quite a few minutes. I'm almost done. I've got 3 more stitches. No, I'm a continental knitter. Yeah. No, I don't, I'm not an English knitter. I don't go like this. I was taught by my aunt, who is a English knitter. And when I came back to knitting after university, I actually intentionally became a continental knitter because I found it was so much faster. So this is one of the really cool things about knitting with farm yarn and with yarn, like with fiber that I spun from a farm. This came from Disdarrow Ranch, just up in Kamloops, just outside of Barrier, British Columbia. And Lori was actually on the Woolen Spinning Radio this month for those who are patrons of the show. That'll be released later this week. It's neat because there's like vegetable matter in it. So I spun it and it got past me in the spinning, and now it's in the knitting. So it's kind of neat. I'm constantly like pulling out little bits and pieces. So just to give you an idea of where I am, I'll hold it up here for just a sec. This is the back. So you'll remember last time I had knit to the bottom of the armhole shaping at the back. So this was all on hold back here. And I had knit the one front down to the same point. They were still separate though. And I was just getting ready to start the other, the left front. So this one actually. And I was a little bit concerned about, so I'll lay this out here so you guys can see. So I was a little bit concerned about the sizing. I had said how small it looked, and I was a little bit worried about the fit and whatnot, because I had already gone up a size for knitting and the pattern that I had chosen. And I got a great message on YouTube. This is why I love social media, because I voiced my concern, and I said, you know, I'm not sure it's going to fit me, blah, blah, blah. I've gone up a size, and he says right in the pattern that the lace texture doesn't open up until you've actually, like, until you're blocking the cardigan. So I knew that what it was looking like on my needles and how I had swatched it, that it would work out. But it was really nice to hear somebody commented in the comments on YouTube and said, I went up a size. I always knit this size in Hohi's patterns. I went up a size for this particular pattern. It fits like a dream. I was like, oh, perfect. Okay, great. Then I'm off to the races. So then I started the left front, knit down, finished that, attached it all, and now I have knit down the body. So I don't know how many inches this is. I don't think I have a measuring tape right here, and I'm not going to start looking for one. Although now I'm curious. I think it's about 6 inches that I've knit. It's a slow knit. Like I'm a pretty fast knitter, but every 4th row is a pattern row. So you're slowing down. Oh, I've almost knit 7 inches. I'm just roughly measuring. I'm not exactly doing it properly, but I've already knit 7 inches down the body. That's awesome. Oh, that is so good. I'm further than I thought I was. So it feels like a really slow knit because it's just you zoom along for 4 rows and then you slow right down because you've got this pattern row, and then you zoom along for 4 rows and then you slow right down. And the 4th and 8th row are different from one another, so it's not even like you can really, I've memorized it, but I have to keep checking and I have to keep looking back down to which one I did last. When you're doing the back and when you get down to here at the armholes, you have to keep track of what row you're on so that your fronts all match, so that your back matches, your front matches, and then when you attach it all, you're at the same point in the lace pattern. So that was something like for somebody who's a newer knitter or a beginning knitter, you need to write on your pattern. Like you need to make a whole bunch of notes. I don't usually print off my knitting patterns anymore. I'm an advanced enough knitter that I just don't necessarily need to. This is a pattern, you need to print it off. You need the paper copy. And the reason for that is because your pattern ends up looking like this. It's all written on. All down the side here is all written on. All down the side is written on. This is the textured pattern. Like this is the part of the pattern that has the actual like stitch pattern. And it's, I had it all earmarked so that I knew exactly where it was. This is a different pattern. Yeah, and then I have it all organized, so I don't want to like mix it up because I have it all exactly how I need it to be for when I'm knitting. And then this is all written down the one side for starting the body shaping, because you're still, so when you connect the body and you start knitting down, you're still doing shaping out the front here. So the V-neck goes down to about here. It comes down quite far on the front of the cardigan, which I kind of didn't really realize when I had first started knitting it, because it's actually quite a gentle V-neck. It's a very deep, very gentle V-neck, and I think that's part of what gives the cardigan sort of some elegance. So, yeah, so that's sort of how this pattern is going. Vicky says if you're using interchangeable needles, you can switch out the needles for stoppers and try it on. That way you can see if it's in a range. Yes, you can. Normally I would do that, and normally that would not be an issue at all. The problem is that with this pattern, because of the stitch pattern, that it's quite a bit smaller than it will be once it's blocked. So all of these yarn overs, they're not yarn overs, it's a different stitch, are so tight that they don't open up until you've actually blocked it. So it's not true to size while you're knitting it, and she says it right in the pattern, that everything will open up and everything will be fine, but it's quite a bit smaller. So when I try this on, it is tight, which is why I went up a size, because she had said that in the pattern that you may want to think about going up a size. And I've knit quite a number of Joji's patterns. I know that they fit me, and she's actually the exact same size as me, like in terms of my bust measurements and my shoulders and stuff. So I usually knit the size that she has knit for the pattern sample. But with this pattern, she knit it with 0 ease. So in the photo, she's wearing it with 0 ease. But the problem for this, for me, I wanted a cardigan that was a little bit more relaxed and not quite so tight this time around. So I decided to go up a size, but it still is a bit small. Next time, because I'll be even further along because we're going away this weekend, I will show it to you on my dress form, and I'll show you exactly what I mean, because it's one of those patterns that it's definitely kind of been a bit of a mind bender for me, because I really don't like knitting sweaters and committing this much yarn and this much time when I can't try it on, and especially on my dress form so I can really see how it sits. I really don't like that. So it's a little bit out of my comfort zone, but I think it's actually a really good thing, because it forced me to swatch, because I never swatch, you guys know that. And it really forced me to think about whether or not I really wanted to knit the pattern or not. And this hand spun is very special to me. And it's knitting up beautifully. It's really a great gauge. It's really working out really well. So it's going to be a really gorgeous cardigan. It's got quite a halo. It's hard to see on the camera. I mean, look at how fuzzy it is. It's not like a really crisp stitch pattern, and that's the fuzz from the mohair. So a lot of that mohair over time will just fall out. But it's kind of got this very soft, elegant kind of feel right now. It kind of is making me think of a baby blanket right now. Not in a bad way. It's just kind of got that look. These are the shoulder seams. So you pick up along the shoulder seam. It ends up, because of how you pick up, it actually ends up being quite strong, but it's still got a little bit of elasticity. And then here's the other side. I've still got my marker in for where I had to mark. And then I think where the real beauty of this pattern is right now is how the stitching along the back. I mean, how gorgeous is that? Hopefully you guys can see. I know it's white on white. It's not very fair to you because you can't really see it. And the camera can't pick it up. There we go. But yeah, isn't that pretty? It's just so pretty. So anyways, I'm excited about it. I'm enjoying it more than I thought. So for the sleeves, you actually do, and I'm not going to fall down a rabbit hole today about talking about sleeves because we usually do. You actually pick up your sleeves around here and you work short row sleeves. So you do sleeve shaping up here. This is the top of the sleeve. I should probably turn this around so you guys can see it properly. You pick up all your stitches around. This is the armpit down here, and you work short rows to build your sleeve cap, and then you knit down. So because I'm already knitting a size bigger than I was originally planning to, I'm actually going to knit the sleeves 2 size, because normally I would knit 1 size bigger in the sleeves. So if I'm knitting like the 34-inch bust size on this on a sweater, I knit the 36-inch bust size sleeves, just because I need the room in my biceps. We talked about that last time. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole again, but for this I'm just going to knit to the pattern because they are sized. It would be the size I would normally knit if I was knitting a size smaller. Does that make sense? Are there nups? No, there's not really any nups in the yarn. It's very smooth. I've actually been really surprised. The yarn is very, very smooth. This is the rest of the first ball. So this is the first 348 yards. I've knit the back, the 2 fronts, and down the body, and I've still got, so I think I'm going to have a ton of yarn left over, which is too bad because I chose this pattern to use up yarn, and I'm going to have a ton of yarn left over. So that's too bad. I'll have to find another project for it. Oh, the textured stitch. Thanks, Eve. I was like, no. No, it's not nups. It's straight decreases. Slip, slip, knit, and knit 2 together. But they look like nups until it's blocked. So, yeah, I'm not surprised that you would think that they were nups in the stitch pattern. Yeah. So, that's that pattern. It's coming along nicely. I'm really hoping that next time I can show you the body finished. And hopefully the button band as well, because I'll do the button band before I do the sleeves, just so that everything on the body of the sweater is done. So it's a lot of knitting. I'm surprised at how long it's taking, to be honest. So I hope that everybody's doing really super well. I hope you enjoyed the show. Next time we'll do all those giveaways, and we'll sort of get all caught up with all of that. Our next show for June, just a little bit of housekeeping before we go for our patrons of the community. The next show, Nora's finished preschool next Thursday, which is actually my birthday. Mike's birthday is next week as well, so it's going to be sort of a birthday week. Nora's finished preschool on Tuesday, and James has actually finished school the following Wednesday. So normally we would have a show not on the 12th, but on the, whatever the next date is, the 19th. Normally we would have a show on the 19th. So Nora's not going to be in school, and she'll be home. So we would normally stream the show at about roughly 12:30 in the afternoon while she's at school. And as you guys know, through the summer, the show tends to kind of run on an adjusted schedule because the kids are home and they're around, and it's a little bit more challenging for me. So what we're going to do, and what I'm hoping actually we're going to do, is I'm going to move the show a little bit forward and back in terms of the weeks, so that we can try to grab people that normally wouldn't be able to watch the show. So unfortunately, that weekend of the 16th, 17th, going into where the show normally would fall on the 19th, I'm actually working nights all that weekend. So I can't live stream on a Sunday afternoon because I'll be sleeping. So instead, I think what we'll do on that Tuesday is there will be a show at like 6 o'clock in the morning Pacific Standard Time. So it's super early for those of us who are on the West Coast, but I'm hoping that that will grab some of the people on the East Coast and in other parts of the world who normally would miss the show. So I'm thinking that that's what we'll do that week. We're also home that coming weekend. So if you guys would like to have the show on a weekend, if you could comment in the show notes on Patreon on the episode 97, if you would prefer to have a weekend show on a Saturday or a Sunday morning, we could push the show a couple of days and I could stream it the following weekend. And we'd just be a couple of days late with the show. So if you guys could comment and let me know if that would be preferable. And then in July, we'll do the same thing. We'll kind of move the show around a little bit and hopefully grab some people who can come to the live stream who normally wouldn't be able to. Every year in August, there's always only one episode anyways, because we're usually away for part of the month. So that will be the case this year. We'll have a show probably in the 3rd week of August instead of right at the beginning, because we'll have just had 2 in July. So we'll do the show sort of towards the end of the month in August. And that'll be, again, probably early in the morning or on a Sunday. So I hope that's all okay. I will make sure that I post to let you guys know so you can make plans ahead of time, and hopefully we will see you in the live stream. Until next time, happy spinning. Eve just had a quick question. Random question you mentioned last week about your body shape / size changing. Does your dress form adjust easily? Happy birthday for next week. Oh, thank you for birthday wishes. Yeah, so it does. I bought a dress form in Canada, the Diana dolls. You have to get like a specific size for your size. So depending, like you can get like, you know, model A, model B, model C. There's a whole bunch of like variations on that, whether you're taller or shorter, if it's for a man, a woman. So my dress form will go up to when I was my heaviest postpartum with the kids, and then I've been able to adjust it back down as my body shape has changed. I really wanted one that could go and it'd be adjusted fully through the hips. So mine has an adjustment on the side of the hips, because some of them didn't have that. They were just a solid hip, and I was like, my hips are huge. I need to have that adjustment. And I also have an adjustment for the hips in the front. So it means I can let it out just a little bit more. And then mine also has a waist adjustment. So because I'm really, my torso is really long, I bought one. It cost a little bit more, but the torso on mine actually lifts and lowers. So that's been really helpful, because while I'm not getting any taller, and hopefully I'm not getting any shorter, it gives me a bit more room to move things on the dress form as my shape has changed. So it gives you a little bit more room to adjust out the hips and then adjust in the bust, which is what's happened to me. Because of the waist adjustment, it just gives you a wider range. So yeah, it does. All right. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Happy spinning. Have an awesome end to your week. I think it's going to start raining here. It's all of a sudden clouded over and gotten super dark, and I'm going to go pick Nora up at school and hopefully not have a coughing attack. So until next time, happy spinning. Bye everyone.